So, good afternoon, everyone,
Mm.
and thank you for joining us today. I am Artis Bergsdottir, and I'm the organizer of these lecture series. Today, I have the great pleasure of introducing ROC's postdoc Rike Luther, who will speak to us about the ocean lands mud within the Earth system. She is a fine artist and researcher. Her current work explores the new interrelations created by environmental crisis as they relate to Earth system. Those relations compass themes related to landscape, language, politics, financialization, law, biology, and economy that expressed in drawn images, photography, and film, which can then be investigated in pedagogical situations. Now, Rike, again, welcome, and I'm delighted to have you with us. And without further ado, I give the floor to you now.
Thank you so much. And I want to see that beside being a postdoc under Katrin and Rox, then I co-work with the Art Institution, Art Hub Copenhagen, and NACA, a Nordic Alliance Association, climate in the northern region, and Uppsala University and Baltic Arts Center. So that means there's a lot of players in here, but it also means that I'm invited to some of the sites that I've already planned to go to. And that includes east of Iceland, where I have been, and Svalbard, Greenland, and Gotland. And that you can see in the work I represent, and the work is very much in process. So now I'll go to the keynote. I just have to get these off. Sorry, I can't see. Okay. So the Ocean Lands Mud Within the Earth System is an art practice-based project which examines the new mud-scapes and ocean lands. Can you see it? Because it's on my screen, there's like it's covering with the images.
Nope, it's fine. Looks
Okay.
really good.
Good, because so it's not disturbing the images you should see later. Good. On Greenland, Svalbard, and Gotland, it focuses on social, political, and bio effects of these new muds and their motions. For thousands of years, static muds have facilitated cultural exchange within your drifting boundaries. Warming global temperatures are now it's very difficult because I can't see it. So, but maybe you can go through it and you can see it, and it's about the transformation in the landscape and how the mud is changing in different sites and related to the change in the climate, including the permafrost that melts and sinks, landslips, flood erosion, lakes erosions, and the beds collapse. New mud swells and landslides towards the oceans, garbling and the interdependent circulation of the Earth system. And then this project is like two parts. The first will explore the social organizational effect of ocean land mud in motion, and second, the bio-communicative effect of the ocean land mud in transition. And these inquiries will contribute to a larger attempt in the many fields to construct a new ethical and aesthetic language, one that is capable of communicating the planetary boundaries within the Earth system to a broader public. And then I will show you where I am now. I just had a little exhibition, which is very process-oriented, close to the university where I'm sitting in Copenhagen, at a place called Astrid Noah's Atelier. And there I showed some old work from my PhD that called Concrete Aesthetics, from Universal Rights to Financial Post-Democracy. And you can see the image to the right, and then to the left there's a new poster they called The Ocean Land Mud Within the Earth System, and it's mainly created out of research I did in Svalbard. And then in the vitrines and in the end wall, there's images from screenshots from a film I'm working on, with these 5 cases like Iceland, Greenland, Gotland, and Svalbard, and a little bit like Denmark. It might be. So everything is very much in process, and I'll show you some of the images and try to give you an idea about how the film will go. So it's different cases. I will start with just an image from the vitrine, and it's from I'm part of the Catherine. She is having another project which is called Rocks. It's odd flower from Greenland, and what is happening when it's going into the ocean. That was actually my question why I came to Catherine, is like, what is happening when the mud comes out into the ocean? And she said, oh, I'm doing a project together with the geographer Minik Rosing about measuring what is happening. So I was invited to go on a research trip to Greenland in Gangalassulak, together with the ocean research group. And so this is, sorry, now jump. This is the map I did in relation to the 78 degrees north of Svalbard. And there you can see that you can't see it, but it's like 4.5 meter long and 2.5 meter high. And I'm planning to do 5 in total on this project of the other sites. So it's a little bit the same kind of way I'm building up the film. It's like a lot of research is going into the script, and it's then turned out into the posters, but also into this more essay documentary movie, whereas sometimes on the border to fiction, but not really, and it's also like personal, and then it's into more specific scientific projects. So it's very largely researched and in very many different kind of areas. And then this is from it's just the overall of the film, how I'm thinking about doing it, thinking the ocean lands, and it's from Gotland, with the geological history Gotland has. I thought it would be good to use as a case to go into the seabed and to the ocean space through the island, and try to give an understanding. That was historical. That was like 140-meter higher sea in Gotland, and then it's like it's seabed that's pushed up, but then in the process, I'm now also thinking about putting another element into it, which is like the planetary boundaries, how to find out to link that. That's very much work in process. And then the next one is the more directly the mud in the Earth system, where the cases are Greenland. And then by chance, I was so lucky to meet this researcher Karina Kaup-Sand, who is under in the genetic geology, and she works with eDNA, and what is actually her sites are very much the wetlands, flood erosion, landslides into the ocean and the seabed, where she looks at the transformation. So we have an agreement, because it's damn complicated, her research, to find out a way to write that into a script. So she agreed to, in some way, co-write, or at least help me to check if it's correct, what I'm doing. But it was very much when I started this project, I had not thought about I should go like 2,000 years back and look at the sediment cores and so on. And now it's like 2 million back. So it's really like the time scale is in really in flow in this work. And then so her work is very much on, she was walking around in Greenland, looked at the surface of the minerals and thought, what is happening when the fragmented eDNA is meeting the minerals? So it's very much like in between, you could say, like the definition of life and chemical processes. It's like what is actually, it's just one big throw. And that's where we try to find out how to process out of that story, so to say. And then the next part is the new life atmosphere and corpses, and then the slow and the fast carbon cycle, dust and flow, and then the moving landscapes in Iceland and Svalbard, and in the end. And the dust and flow comes from, I had a meeting with Catherine where we simply cut down the whole project, and it ended just in like the mud became dust, and then the flow, like the circulation. So and we had these discussions, where's life coming from? So which I'll not show today is I'm working with an astrophysicist that's researching on meteorites and in relation to life. Did life come from outer space, or also, or did it come from the mud in the deep seabed, or how have it developed? So that part will also come later. That's another thing that's in process. And this is an image from Gotland. So this is a way to use the snow and the atmosphere talking with the ocean. So I've been meeting with atmosphere chemistries that will that where we have this dialogue about what is happening with the new human-produced particles in the atmosphere and how that transforms the snow, and the questions about the change of snow crystals being formed in the atmosphere, like pre-snow crystals. So that's another level that will go into the story. And then here, it's just examples like of the flow in the film. So and the text to the left, it's a script in notes in process, and it tells about the old sea landscapes and notes from Bergman's movies, because this is a site where his movies were done. So there would be different links to films. Also, there'll come one later with Hitchcock, and there will be right now. It's also the situation in Gotland. It is that it is just back to how it was in the Cold War. That there are a lot of focus on military questions and a lot of military in Gotland. So there come suddenly this geopolitical question into this landscape. So I'm in discussion. Shall it be included or not? And here's a case from there's a story. I just tell it how I do this. I have my abstract when I start to do the project and the movie, and then I stick to that. But at the same time, it's totally random what I'm meeting on my way, and I meet a lot of people and I have a lot of exchange with people, and that then feed back on the output of the work. So for instance, this case, it's there was in the museum in Gotland, there was a plastic version of a fossil, this big fossil here that's now in Stockholm, where it tells a story about Carl von Linné, and how when he was walking around in Gotland, he thought, oh, these creatures and plants, they're living out in the ocean. So it's an example how we categorize and try to understand the world, and how it's totally undermined when we find out that's actually not how it is. So I got I got a little bit interested to see how could I get that in. So I went to Stockholm and filmed it and had meetings with the researchers at the Naturhistorisk Museum. So that's another element in that story from Gotland I'm working on. Then I go to the situation in Greenland, and it's very much because that's such a big fast melt, the inland ice and melting so fast, so there come all this sediment that's produced out into the ocean. So I take the story from the inland ice and with the Mulan holes and how recently it was found out that there's this flood going under the ice, which was actually new knowledge, but oh, it's not new that these flood systems are there, but they're in transformation. So there will be the story about this instability and the new production of the sediment, the mud, when it comes into the ocean. And then I film with my telephone, and then I film with a drone. That's the main cameras I'm using. And then here is an example of how the work with Karina will be with the historical DNA that's stored in the sedimentary muds, and how that what will happen with that. So this very much how I work is like I'm in process of how will the work be. I have my story in my head, but then I start to film, and it's very much in. So when I have the filmic material, then I write the script. So I build up like a little bit opposite, like people normally build up films, I guess. And here's then it goes into the river, and it have these questions about the interaction between the DNA and the minerals, like I mentioned before. And what about the bacteria as in the mud, and what scales are we talking about? And then it goes into it's the film this is zoomed in, so you can see these small spots on the surface of the water. That's the sand corns. So it's looking into the fluxation in the flux in the water, and tells about that story, because that's part of the researchers' work. What is actually happening with the sediment? How long time is it moved in the ocean? Because that's important for the research they're doing, and they are working on. They still haven't got the results, so I'm also waiting. I have notes, but I'm still waiting for the researchers coming with their new knowledge, both measuring how the plumes are in the ocean, what kind of algae are being created, and so on. And then here is, I can see Clara's here. Clara is here doing some of her samples, and maybe Clara can top up on that. But we're going to have coffee meetings, and Clara have said and helped me to send images. Some of the researchers have sent me images of the planktons and what they're looking at. So we have coffee meetings, and so I can learn and hear more about their work, and hopefully also the other way. And then here is an image of the end of more the river where it goes into the fjord. And then here is the I've just been to a seminar last week where I then had new notes on the sediment and how it forms in relation to the whole process. So so that I rewritten this part of the script last week. So that's really much how it goes. And I have been at Roxette for 11 months now, so I still have pretty long time to go. Another thing I haven't said is that I'm working on two versions of the film. I'm working on one that's 20 minutes long, more for they should be finished more for the typical art world audience and short film festivals, and then a long version that's 60 minutes, where it will be many more details as coming into flow, and it should be finished in more than a year. And this is an example of what the scientists brought to Greenland, and one of the instruments there are researching, using in the research, the algae wheel, where they're processing the collected sediment and see what is happening. And it's what is the growth of in the photosynthesis, for instance, with the algae communities, and what is happening when you add more glacier rock flour into the closed community, and how long time have it been, and so on. And then here's an image of the floor of your fjord. There's 100 kilometers long, and Jan Benson, who is a leader of this part of the project, he's working on a 3D model that can measure what is actually happening with the mud influx in the ocean. How is it spreading, and how far out in the ocean is it spreading? So will it spread? So I'm waiting for his result in relation to that model, and maybe there'll be images of that model put in. And here's Rasmus's tests from mud, where he had filtered the mud, and then it's another story into the research work through these sand cakes, as I call them. And then here is filmed material. It's very difficult because there's really a lot of that's going into this filmic part. There's a radio with recorded that the lab assistant are listening to in the working process. And so it's also built up with the daily life that's happened in the research trip. So it's just to give an example of another element that would be there. And this is the last image from Greenland. And I just had an idea this morning, because what I have not thought about since last week. I thought, okay, I don't have to go into law, but it seems like there's a lot of law questions related to this work. There's, like, for instance, with the London Protocol that was originally framed in 72, changed in 73, and then came back in another version, 96, and new comments in 23 and so on in relation to human CO2 storage under the seabed, for instance. That's one version, or dumping waste material. There was another version. So it's constantly in discussion, and I think with this, I started to discuss it with Katrin, because it is like, how can we perspective it in relation to law, and how is a science working in relation to law, and if when is it relevant and when is it not relevant, and when should you do and when should you not do, and when should the actually law maybe be challenged from the perspective of what is happening. So that's a little bit like that's what I thought about that should come in here, but I'm not quite sure about it because it's damn complicated. But that could maybe be a fragment of it, so it's just being touched at least. Of course, also rocks is a part of the society in relation to the changes and the transformations. And is it a thing that they shall, for instance, let's say, shall you fertilize or shall you not fertilize? It's forbidden to fertilize, but maybe it could be relevant. And so it's a difficult discussion, which should be have a question mark, and then I'll find out how that would be. Then I go to Iceland, and this is it's in the east middle of Iceland, and it's a Leica camera that's normally used in the ocean, but here it's a laser light that goes. It's sent light up into the mountains where there are full of sediment, muddy surface, and there have been several mudslides here, where houses have ended up in the ocean, and so it's a really hard transformation that's happening here. But here the camera is constantly observing through 70 different sites up in the mountain. It's constructing like a Minecraft map. In the west of Iceland, there's all the computers. There's the computer that's receiving this data, and people are observing the new map it's transforming. So I got into also have the camera element, and I didn't mention that with Karina, but Karina, she's working on, through her work with microscope camera, she have started to transform how you normally use it to speed it up, and from when she was speeding it up, she then saw a lot of new elements in the fragmented eDNA and the interaction with the minerals. So I have this element with the cameras, and also since it's like film, I thought that could be a little bit nice to have that historical element with how do we observe, what kind of technology do we have in relation to creating images. And for instance, again, back to the mud, like right now we have the tools for observing 5% of what is actually having in the mud material. I'm in discussion with some researchers or I'm looking into the work that's opened up an institute in 17 in Aarhus University about what's happening with bacterial in, for instance, like in mud and their electricity. And from their work, it's also starting a new way of thinking mud and how it's crystallizing in a way and communicating in ways that have not been a focus on before or understanding of before. And I don't have any images actually here of this Minecraft map, but I would like to include that as well. Here's some images of just several images from the film about the landscape that's monitored, some from the ocean, and then so it'll tell the story about the mud landscape and how it's laying there. And then I go to another case in Iceland. It's southeast at Kvarnfjell, like Svinefjell, and Kvarnfjell is in Greenland. Sorry, Svinefjell, and it's an old gap that was found by a sheep farmer, and he reported it, and he said it started to open up. And I went there and started to film. And when I was down there filming, then Andreas, who is a PhD student in Reykjavik, who is working on this case, came, and we had a dialogue, and I had to read some of his result. But the case is here. What he described to me is that what is happening, the glacier is not retreating, but it's sinking, and there's an accumulating a lot of water in the lagoon, and let's say if the gap will collapse in 70 years, then the calculation is there will come a tsunami from inland, and just southeast Iceland will end out into the ocean. So that's another case that go into the film. Then I go to Svalbard, which will be the last version here, to the last place today. And there I was in dialogue with Maria Jensen, who is a geologist there and who have been looking she's researching the time the tides of the ocean that come into the to the river in the fjord with Longyearbyen. And then it tells, we talked about, I asked her this question, that if things are processing so fast in Svalbard, then it means that we're actually in 2033. So she accepted. Or she said, "Yeah, but I will calculate on that." So I have to get back to Maria and hear how it's actually going with that calculation. If that's a thing I could stage, then uh, it will look. There will be some questions about the biochemical cycle in the fjords, and how they find their ways out to the oceans. And here's just an image of a reindeer and how the transformation is. That I met by a researcher, actually a sociologist. I was looking into the story of a polar bear, because they say the polar bears are starting to eat the reindeer, but they don't know. It's stated that that's a new thing because of the transformation of the inland of the ocean ice. But then other people say no, it's always been like that. It's just now the focus, and we see it more. So it's constantly this kind of what knowledge is it we have to, and what stories is it we're telling. And then here is the large image I have today, where it's where the ocean meets the fjord. Yeah. So I hope that this is a comment on. I hope that this gave you some sort of idea about where I am and what I'm looking into.
For more information about rocks, visit our website at www.rocks.ku.dk.